What's up, comic book fans? Anchor Pete here, and I'm with my good friend Brian. Brian, we have a shit ton of stuff to talk about today, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We have Young Justice as always, getting down to the one of the last episodes of this season. We have 2 episodes of Obi-Wan, and we have a Thor: Love and Thunder trailer we haven't talked about yet.
Oh man! So let me ask you this: out of those three, which are you the most excited to talk about today?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I can answer that. I'm pretty even on all of them, I think.
I think for me, it's Obi-Wan,
Okay.
but I have a lot of positive and a little bit of negative to say about it. I'm pretty eager to talk about that with you.
Okay. Yeah,
And
I have.
good.
I have a mixed bag with it, I think. But
Okay.
yeah, you know what? I'm going to say Obi-Wan too.
Nice. And then if you guys are watching too at home, this is your first time on our channel. We are Comic Books Transformed, where we talk about the adaptations of our favorite comic books. And sometimes we talk about things that aren't comics to begin with, like Star Wars. But today, the order that we're going to go in is, just like Brian said, we're going to start with Young Justice, because we always do that first when it's on the air. Then we're going to do the 2 episodes of Obi-Wan, and then the Thor Love and Thunder trailer. So, with that being said, Young Justice Phantoms is up to episode 24, and it was called Zenith and Abyss. You don't say Zenith, right, Brian?
I say Zenith, yeah.
Okay, good. So I took it as like we're reaching sort of like high points of the show, like highest points. Like seems like things might actually be resolved and good will win. But then there's also the abyss, like we're hitting this very, very low point too. What do you think?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we're definitely getting to the climax here, where there's 2 episodes left after this one. There hasn't been a green light of a fifth season or anything like that. So this could be a season finale, could be a series finale. We don't know. I'm still very concerned about it with the whole Warner Discovery merger and all the stuff they want to. They've already started to change so far.
Yeah, it would be a shame. Like I think it'd be a loss to like not have anything new from this show. But I think a lot of times they make comic books and stuff to keep it going. And I know they already have like a Young Justice comic like miniseries planned already for this after this season. So
Yes.
it'd be cool like to keep it going. And Greg Weisman, I know he's like written a lot of comics too. So I think it would work good in that kind of mode.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we briefly talked about the Young Justice comic that's coming. But yeah, I'd be happy if that's the only way it's going to continue. I'm happy with that, I suppose.
Yeah. So let's talk about what happened in this episode. So it has that cold open, and we see Tomar 2, who's Tamar Ray's son, and he's in like the area where they have the science cells floating above Oa. And Kilowog's there, and in walks in Lor Zod asking about the Kaiser Thrall. And Brian, I don't know about you, but like I thought it was kind of weird that Kilowog was there. And I mean, didn't he have a fight with Lor Zod a couple episodes ago?
Kilowog was not there for the fight. Only Tomar Ray was.
Oh, like what did he do? He's like, I gotta go somewhere, and just like left.
I don't remember where he was exactly at the time, but he was not there for the fight. I imagine that hearing someone inquire about the Kaiser Thrall might have piqued his interest, but
Yeah.
I don't believe he saw Lor Zod. I think the only people that even saw him were Rocket and Orion, because he did that thing. No, wait, he didn't do that thing to them, did he? Was that Megan's brother?
Oh, yeah. Malafa'ak.
Malafak, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, but Kilowog was definitely not at the battle. He was off somewhere else, and that's it.
Okay. Well, that's one of the benefits of doing the show with you, man, is that you actually clarify things for me. I have a couple of Obi-Wan things I'm hoping you can clarify for me too.
I hope so too. So one comment I want to make about those holding cells on Oa, they looked an awful lot like the Watchtower, didn't they?
Oh yeah. I thought that too. Yeah, design's very similar.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if that was some kind of joint technology sharing thing or something like that. There was maybe just a nice little background detail touch.
Yeah, I think because you and I are watching the early episodes of Young Justice again too, and I think that like Robin or someone said that Superman and Green Lantern designed the Watchtower when they go there.
Oh, okay.
So that kind of makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. So it could have that kind of Green Lantern aesthetic, kind of makes more sense. But so anyway, Connor Kent, he's still in the Phantom Zone, and it looks like he actually does make his way out in this episode. Spoilers. But his Phantom Zone sickness has really messed him up, and it's really kind of messed up the whole plot of the show, right? Because he believes that he's killed Superman, and he thinks he's dangerous to McGann, and so that's kind of making him the obstacle between essentially resolving this whole problem.
Yes, because they want to get him out and only him out. They don't want to. They want to take out the other criminals from the Phantom Zone. Although later on in the episode, I believe it was Zod makes a really excellent point that they've probably served their terms already by now.
Oh yeah,
in the 40 years. So it's like, what do you do in that regard? Like that's kind of like one of those kind of morality questions. I think that the show poses very well.
Yeah. Yeah, this ethical kind of decision of like, well, do we release these criminals? But, it's kind of interesting because if they were just regular criminals and they came out, they could probably live somewhere peacefully. But you're releasing these criminals that have the powers of like gods, So it's an interesting conundrum that you can only kind of really do with science fiction or comic books, And one of the more science fiction-y kind of concepts in Young Justice is this idea of the Kaiser Thrall, which you mentioned before. And I knew that the kid that lives inside the Kaiser Thrall or is the Kaiser Thrall, I knew he had to be a comic book character. Had you heard of Danny Chase before?
It sounded so familiar to me, but after I looked it up and all that, I don't recall it seeing it or reading anything about him before.
Yeah. I also didn't know who he was. Like, I think I like maybe read about it in like a DC encyclopedia or something, but I never read any comics with him. And I thought it was interesting that like he becomes a villain named Phantasm. So like DC had the name Phantasm, but he has nothing to do with Batman, the Mask of the Phantasm. His costume looks kind of like it though. But I do remember somewhere reading that he was kind of an asshole character too. And
yeah, I did see that as well. Yes.
So it's kind of funny because he's not an asshole in this at all. He's actually like real
character. Yeah, you feel for him.
I mean, yeah. He like basically puts himself in harm's way. He could essentially die, to help the Justice League. And the way that he was created is just so fucked up too. It goes into what we were talking about last week of that sort of like that real fucked up part of the show where like the new gods are like experimenting on humans, trafficking metahumans. And I mean, like the Sod basically just tortured him and took his brain and put it in this father box, And did that kind of remind you of Robot Man a little bit?
Yes, but I think it's obviously different because there was some, I guess, positivity with Cliff. Like he wasn't forced on. I mean, it was forced on him, but it was. He was dead or dying, and this kid was just experimented on. So it was really forced upon him. And also, it's a kid rather than an adult. It's always harder when you do it to a kid.
I know. Yeah, it's so funny because like the show used to be on Cartoon Network, and they just could not get away with something like that. Now it's too much. It works on HBO Max though. So you have the mother boxes on New Genesis, then you have the father boxes on Apocalypse, and I think that's kind of interesting because there's nothing really like that in the comics. That's definitely like a Young Justice thing.
And yeah, I mean, I've definitely heard of both of them before, but I don't remember that context ever being made anywhere else. But I mean, it's possible, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
One last question about the Kaiser Thrall and Danny. Is he like dead now? Because like Malfa came in there, he said like fractalized or something, and he like disappears or some shit. Is he actually dead?
I'm gonna think that he will like. It's kind of like when Dr. Octopus took over Peter Parker's body. Okay. I'm gonna think that like maybe he like scattered his essence or something or his mind, but I think he's gonna like take control back over of the box because the way that they left it, it looked like Malfa Ak is controlling the box and making him do that, like that power that freezes everyone in place. Yeah. So I think that Danny's gonna come back and like free the heroes. That's just my theory.
Yeah.
You think he's dead or no?
I think you're right. I think that's going to be the only way that they're going to stop the Kaiser Thrall from immobilizing everybody else. So you're probably right.
Yeah. But that's brutal too. Just made this kid just disappear
Yeah.
basically. It sure looked like he died. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And then just kind of going along with like death and brutality. Connor's had these visions of killing Superman, and when the team finally shows up to try to rescue him, he's convinced that Superman is dead. And he even like says to them, "I killed Superman." Everyone kind of looks confused, and I really like the editing there because they cut from him saying, "I killed Superman." It's like the very next scene is like Superman uses a boom tube to come into the watchtower.
And they also intercut his visions of him killing Superman too, and the blood on his hands too. So I think that he thinks he killed Superman, and he's worried he's going to hurt him again. So he does remember stuff. He just thinks he might be better off staying away, and this is the only home he may have available to him, I guess. So I think what's going to happen is that he's going to see Superman, and then he's alive, and he's going to realize, oh shit, maybe these guys are right, and I'm not that messed up.
Yeah, and that'd be a nice like full circle, and maybe it is okay for the show to end because I remember the first arc ends with like him and Superman kind of awkwardly interacting with each other. Yeah. And if it's like the idea of Superman that sort of brings him back to being normal, I think that could really work. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really like about this episode in particular, Superman's always kind of portrayed almost like he's sort of awkward and he's a little bit cowardly, which is kind of weird for Superman to be portrayed on the show. And at least in my opinion, that's the way it is. And then when he goes and talks to the Justice League, he keeps covering for the Legion of Superheroes. And I like that a lot because he's basically saying like, I can't go into this. I can't go into this. He's like sticking up for them. And I think that makes him look more heroic, even though he's essentially holding back the truth. He's like protecting the Legion.
Yeah, it's Superman doing what he does best and shouldering the burden of everything, really.
Ooh.
And I do like it does feel a little different here. I do feel like in a lot of other media depictions, he really is just that Boy Scout, and it's almost like a negative thing to most people, or like more casual fans that they think he's too good and not interesting. And I think things like this make him interesting, or a lot more interesting. And I think many comics have portrayed things like this, but this show is doing a good job too.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah, that's very well put. And a lot of more kind of modern versions of Superman, especially like in live action and stuff, have Superman being like very violent and like he loses his temper and stuff. And that doesn't happen on this Young Justice show. But of course, Superboy kind of loses his temper and is kind of violent, so he kind of fills that need, right?
Very true.
So when we have the team in the Phantom Zone, didn't you think that Tigress looked kind of weird?
So I didn't. What actually stood out to me the most was Nightwing, because his eye covers, like everyone's eyes are yellow, but his are just like there, and that was the only thing that really stood out to me. So I didn't even notice anything weird about Tigress or an appearance.
I thought she looked like real masculine. I thought she kind of looked like Wolverine, honestly.
You know what? With her mask like that and the color change, that could totally look like Laura Wolverine.
Right. Okay, that's a good point. Yeah. I also kind of like that their powers didn't work so well, and that their like weapons didn't work. And Nightwing was kind of clued in on that eventually. He said, let's just do hand to hand base. Or was that him or Aqualad?
Aquaman.
Aquaman. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
He did that, and there was another little quick scene and flashback of when Aquaman is talking to Connor. They flash back to their first meeting in the I don't remember if it was the end of the first episode or the beginning of the second, but like when they first kind of face off with each other, and I thought that was a nice touch. And being that I just watched it, it resonated with me a little bit more because it kind of, I think that scene in the first episode kind of portrayed and put Aquaman in a better light than he would normally be presented in, because a lot of people think Aquaman's more of a joke character, and in a lot of versions of it. So that was a big thing to me.
Yeah. I'm glad that you brought that up. Because I wasn't even going to mention that little cut. Because like it is really cool to see the past episodes and see the stuff that they're referencing. Because that's the way that this show is that like 4 seasons in, they'll reference something from the very first few episodes, and you're just sort of supposed to remember it. And I usually don't rewatch movies or TV shows these days, and I don't reread books usually because there's just so much media to consume. It's like why am I going to watch something I've already seen a bunch of times, right? But rewatching Young Justice, I feel like it's really worth it. It really pays off because like it's kind of amazing seeing where they are now and seeing where they began. You're like, oh my god, so much has happened,
Yeah.
for each character. And it's interesting because like Nightwing, I feel like personally, he seems the most like physically he looks the most different. He's so much bigger, and then he just seems older and like sort of more quiet and reserved as his younger self. Was much more like kind of making jokes and stuff. But I was gonna say that he definitely seemed a lot more like Bruce, right? Especially when he like opened up the box with the kryptonite.
Total Batman move.
yeah, exactly. But the kryptonite did not work on the Phantom Zone Kryptonians.
Yes, I'm guessing it's only because the radiation would only affect them if, because really it's a piece of Krypton. So it's like, they were living on that planet. So obviously it wouldn't work on them. So it must be some kind of interaction with the yellow sun and the kryptonite.
Yes. That's actually like, because, I usually complain about Man of Steel, but one thing I actually really like about Man of Steel is when they start to harvest the Earth, they like change the atmosphere, and that weakens Superman. I like the idea of like Krypton itself weakens them, and so like kryptonite, like you just said, I like that idea of like because it's from Krypton, it weakens him. It always seems like it's this magical thing, but it's like no, this would just make him human. Like I like the idea of weakening him versus like killing him.
Yeah. One of the interesting things I find about this and the whole plan that that they concoct on the Justice League side is, they go to the Red Planet. Orion suggests this, which is a great plan. Go to the Red Planet. So even if they come out, they won't be able to do very much. But obviously, it's going to weaken Superman. But I mean, there are tons of stories where Superman just travels all over space.
Yep.
I mean, I would love to know, like, is it he has to be near yellow sun or he can't be near a red sun? Like, I'm sure there are plenty of places he's been to with very far from any sun.
Yeah.
I would love some more definition on that. So,
I agree. They do kind of play hard and fast with the rules, and it usually just is whatever serves the plot. But I always like the idea of like Superman almost being like a battery, and that like he absorbs the sun's energy, and then eventually he runs out of it.
Yeah.
So the idea of like a red sun sort of like turning it off kind of goes against that. But it is a good plot device to like, bench Superman or weaken Superman. And so he's not much good in this fight with the Kryptonians. But I guess the Kryptonians aren't that big of a deal either.
Yeah.
On this red planet. And poor freaking Connor coming out of that boom tube, and he still got those wounds from the oof.
Yeah, that looked brutal.
I feel bad for him. So let's see. I was just trying to think if there's anything else. Actually,
there was one more thing I actually wanted to mention. So
go ahead.
Obviously, we have Zod and Ursa coming out of the Phantom Zone, and Lor-Zod is there. And did you kind of get a vibe that Dru-Zod was not too happy to see Lor?
I was trying to, while I was watching it, I was thinking like, was he a little kid when he last saw him? Like, how'd that work? Was he grown up or?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Right. It must not be
underage. They said he was underage at the time.
Yeah.
But they didn't put him in the Phantom Zone. Because he time traveled back. I would think. Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's a confusing thing, right? Because 40 years have passed. It's like, okay, well, how come he's not like 40 years old, right? Or maybe he ages slowly because he's Kryptonian. I don't know. But like, I don't know. I didn't know that. I think maybe I didn't even notice his reaction to him. He just kind of like looked disappointed.
He looked and he kind of like frowned, like he scowled or something. Like when he came out, I thought it wasn't so subtle that it could be ignored. I feel like it had to, because the last thing that happens, the absolute last thing in the episode. So I'm very curious to see what happens next episode.
Yeah, me too. That was actually one part I really liked about the episode, was that like kind of simultaneously to the boom tube opening up and the heroes meeting the Kryptonians, you had the stuff with Lor-Zod and Malafa'ak is pretending to be the Legionnaires. It's all sort of like building to this head, and it's essentially there's like two bad guy teams coming at the Justice League, and there's essentially two teams at the Justice League too, right? There's the team, and then there's this team that has like Green Lanterns and Legion of Superhero people and New Gods. It's going to be a big battle, I think, on the Red Planet. Yeah. So we'll see, and they'll probably get off of the planet too, so we can see some Kryptonian action too.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, so is there any more for Young Justice?
No, I'm good.
All right. Then we are dipping into Obi-Wan. We're going to the sands of Tatooine to talk about part 1 of Obi-Wan. 2 episodes dropped today. If you haven't seen them, please go watch them on Disney Plus and come back and join us. But Brian, I always like to kind of go through the behind-the-scenes stuff real quick of shows.
Of course.
I wanted to just mention the director, Deborah Chow, because I think she did a really fantastic job with these 2 episodes. What'd you think?
Yeah, I think the way the episodes looked and the pacing of it are all very good. Yes.
Yes.
And a lot of the writing and dialogue as well. Not all.
Yeah. Okay. So I had some issues with the dialogue, but
I mean, I'll explain more later. I also have issues with some of the dialogue. But one part of it I really, really, really liked. So
okay. Cool. So yeah, I think that visually it looks really great. I think sort of like the zenith, to use that word from the Young Justice episode, the zenith of modern Star Wars movies, Disney Star Wars movies, I feel like is Rogue One when it comes to visuals. I feel like visual-wise, Rogue One is the best looking. I think The Last Jedi is very, very good looking. And I think that this show reminds me more of that than, say, like The Mandalorian does or Book of Boba Fett. What would you say?
Yeah, I can definitely go with that. And I think this show looked very good. And I mean, I know that this was originally supposed to be intended to be a movie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it wasn't filmed as a movie at first
Right.
and then converted to a show. But I feel like something about it looked better than the other shows, I guess.
Yeah. And see, I think that's the mark of a good director, because I think that, like, obviously you have the cinematographer who has the eye for the shots, but the director knows how to kind of put it all together. And it really does give off this kind of vibe, this show. Like, you really do feel like the Jedi are gone, the Empire is taking over. It is very dangerous to be Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, it has a sense of atmosphere. I think it conveys it really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Deborah Chow, just so we establish who she is, she's known for this movie called The High Cost of Living, which I'm not very familiar with, but she's directed a lot of things for television, including Flowers in the Attic. Like, they did an adaptation of that. Sherry loves those books. I just had to mention that. And then she did like some things for the CW, including the show Rain and the CW's Beauty and the Beast. And then she also directed Mr. Robot, which I always thought, or some episodes of Mr. Robot. I always thought that Mr. Robot was like very well shot too. So, she's pretty good in my book.
Yeah, I have not seen any of those things you just mentioned, so I'm kind of curious to go and check some of them out.
Yeah, Mr. Robot's really good. Yeah,
I've always heard that. Yeah, but I never got around to it.
Yeah. So then the showrunner is Joby Harold, and he's kind of interesting too, especially for you and me, because the next thing that he has coming out is Transformers: The Rise of the Beasts.
Okay. But what is he doing on that? Because he's not the director.
No, the writer.
Oh, the writer. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So he wrote that. He wrote John Wick Chapter 2, which I'm a big fan of John Wick Chapter 2. He co-wrote King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. That's the one with Charlie Hunnam and like Jude Law.
Okay. I didn't see that. I obviously saw John Wick though. Yeah.
Yeah. That movie's kind of weird because it's like really kind of bleak and it's very stylish because it's the guy that fucking Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Who's that guy?
Oh, I know this. It's not.
Man, we had a rhythm going. We were good. I just fucked it all up. Oh, man.
Take a shot.
If you know in the comments, just yell at us in the comments. But then he also co-wrote that Army of the Dead. That's the one with Zack Snyder.
Yes. Okay.
So he's got kind of a mixed bag. And I think that that's maybe why the show is kind of a mixed bag for me, too. So you mentioned there was already going to be a film. Did you know that John Williams did the theme for it?
Yeah, I saw that in the credits. So yes.
That's pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Did you like the theme?
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, okay. The cold open in the first episode, we see a bunch of younglings training. Did you think it was going to go into Order 66?
It makes sense for them to go back and retread that, and I'm 100% assuming that one of those Padawans was what's her name? I forgot.
Reva?
Reva, yes, the third sister.
Yeah.
And I know you're kind of holding out that Kumail Nanjiani was there too, but I'm not so sure about
that. Yeah. And we'll probably talk about stuff from episode 2 and 1 kind of together. But yeah, I was kind of hoping that multiple kids from that group would still be alive. But you're probably right. It's probably that it's just her. And, she's going to maybe be like the main kind of antagonist. And then, like, I think Darth Vader will maybe get him in the end or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, I mean, from what I know about the Inquisitors is that, they're not necessarily Jedi or Sith, but they're kind of like Force sensitive, and a lot of them were Padawans and trainees that were like tortured and succumbed to the dark side after the Order 66. So,
yeah, and the main Inquisitor, the Grand Inquisitor, actually was a guard at the Jedi Temple.
Yes,
and so he's played by Rupert Friend. And I was kind of wondering who he was when I saw him. I couldn't recognize him under the makeup, but he's actually this guy from Homeland.
Homeland, yep.
Oh, did you watch Homeland?
I didn't finish Homeland, but I watched the first 2 or 3 seasons.
Okay,
but he was like my favorite character. So
yeah, Peter Quinn.
Yeah,
very similar to Peter Quill, like Star-Lord. But yeah, he's good. I watched like the first 4 or 5 of Homeland at least, and there's like 7 or 8 seasons of that too. But yeah, I was a fan of that. Yeah, and so he's the Inquisitor. We're going to talk about something about him in the second episode. But I was going to say that with the Inquisitors, like, do you feel like they are being portrayed well? Do you think that they're like kind of intimidating? What do you think about the Inquisitors in this show?
I think it's a mixed bag. So, I mean, one of my big problems with the show actually is Reva. So I think she goes a little too hard, and I think they're trying to prove that she's reckless and inexperienced and all that. And I think it's a little odd that the others are trying to hold her back so much.
Okay, thank you.
It seems like a really weird imbalance for these supposedly evil characters.
Okay.
And there was a couple points that were like very clumsily paced out where it's like they were like right there and almost could have had the thing. They would have let her do her thing, but it's like, oh no, we're bad, but we're not that bad. So it was a mixed bag. I think they look really cool. The idea is really cool. I absolutely loved the Grand Inquisitor's explanation of what they do, or how Jedi's hunt themselves. Like that whole scene was great. I mean, I feel like that's been used before, and for other, good guys that are in hiding, that they can't help themselves. But the way that was portrayed, that was one of my favorite things in either of these episodes, was that scene and that monologue that he had.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm really, really glad that you made that point, because I didn't have that written down, but I think you're absolutely right that like her whole thing in these first 2 episodes is just like, oh man, I really gotta get Obi-Wan. I gotta get Obi-Wan like right now. I'll do anything. I'll chop off this guy's hand. I'll go kill Uncle Owen's family. I'll do any kind of crazy thing. And they're always kind of pulling her back. And you're so right. It's like literally if they didn't stand in her way, if she just went forward, she could catch Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. I see what they're doing with the show. It's just, I mean, that actually kind of like blew my mind when she just randomly started chopping off hands,
Yeah. And one of my other issues with the character too is that I can tell that they're going for that she's reckless and she has a lot of rage built, within her. But sometimes I don't feel like the actress portrays enough emotion for it.
Yeah.
And sometimes her energy falls a little flat for what she's saying and doing, I think.
Yeah. That's one thing that, like, because we have all these YouTube channels. You're on all my channels with me, and I sometimes am hesitant to critique actors just in general, unless they're like someone that's really established and like has a big career. Yeah. But I do feel like that we could at least critique the acting choices of how they do certain things. And for me, I feel like what you just said is so on the money. And then I also feel like the Princess Leia actress, there's something off with her. And I know it's a little kid, but it's like it's kind of the same thing with Anakin, like all over again, like Jake Lloyd's Anakin, where little kids, obviously aren't going to have this sort of level of acting chops as an adult, and so it's all on how you use them. And I think that like the way they portrayed Leia in the show, that's been rubbing me kind of wrong too.
So, see, that's that. I think we may differ here a little bit. So
Okay.
I agree with you on the acting, and I think you mentioned something to the effect that they had their kind of like wink, wink, nudge, judge. This is Leia, and this is going to be who she goes up to be, and all this foreshadowing stuff. I think they do go a little hard with that, but I do generally like what she's saying and how she's portrayed.
Okay.
That she's a little rebellious, and then I really like the interaction that Bail Organa has. Actually, I like the interactions that she has with both her parents.
Yeah.
In the show, and I think that kind of it shows where she comes from, and it shows what she's going to grow up to be. I mean, to me, Leia, especially in A New Hope, the first movie, she's a very strong-willed, strong-headed person, and I think you see a glimpse of that. But I think it's a very difficult thing for a kid to emote.
Okay.
So, I like the writing of it for the most part, except for those little points where it's a little too tongue in cheek. But the execution's a little off for me.
Yeah. I that's
not always though. I mean, just sometimes. There are a bunch of scenes where I think that I really appreciate the scenes with Obi-Wan and Leia. I like their interactions back and forth, and I like that. It's just sometimes that the child actress, I don't know her name, but her deliveries seems very childlike.
Yeah. Right. Well, so you bring up a really good point that like it's kind of like the Leia that she's going to become. That's one of the cool things about this show is essentially it's like in between two trilogies. And so she's just a baby in the prequel, so whatever, who cares about that? But it's like obviously she's going to grow up to become this hero, this iconic character. And Princess Leia is absolutely 100% an iconic movie character.
Oh my god.
Yeah, right. And thanks to Carrie Fisher, right? And because of Carrie Fisher, who she was, and because of the way Princess Leia is in particular in A New Hope, Princess Leia is like intertwined with like rebellion in the real world, and she's also intertwined with like feminism in the real world. And she's been used as a symbol. She was used as a symbol throughout the whole Trump era. When Carrie Fisher died, like they used her as symbolism all over the place. And I think that they're trying to do that. And just like you said, it's like, they're kind of putting that on a little kid, and it's just a little kid acting. And so it just kind of feels awkward because it's sort of like this character that they've already made larger than life, and you're having a little kid portray that. And it just kind of,
it's real big shoes to fill.
Exactly. So maybe they would always fall flat. I have issues with Leia, but mainly in the follow-up episode. So we'll get into that for episode 2. Sure. But in this episode, she is at an event where some of her relatives come, or her adopted relatives come on Alderaan, and she interacts with her cousin. And I really like that interaction for 2 reasons. One is because you see her interacting with a droid, or he's interacting with a droid, and he's completely rude to the droid. And then she like stands up for it. And I liked that because like, it kind of makes sense that Leia would stand up for a droid for like multiple reasons, right? Like one is because like when we see her in the other movies, she's always attached to C-3PO and R2 a little bit too, and then
who made a little cameo appearance as well.
Yeah. And then, her father was obviously like one of the key parts of Anakin's personalities. He's into machinery and fixing things. He made C-3PO, right? And then, of course, Anakin is like almost like more than half droid, right? So I like that they use that little story beat right in there, just to kind of give a little glimpse into her character. I like that. And then, like, I like that the little boy says, you're not even an Organa, but it's like, it just seems kind of fake for like a little kid to say that, or at least maybe the way the kid said it.
No,
You know?
I believed it because in the sense that this is a spoiled little rich brat, and she is someone who's around that, but doesn't act like that. She's different. So
Yeah.
I think I totally bought it, and I enjoyed her little sick burn on him. But yeah,
But see, like the burn is good, right? Because the burn is like, oh, you're trying to be like your dad, but it's like that's what they keep doing with her characters, that she has like this insight into people, and I don't really remember Leia having insight as an adult. I mean, maybe that's like a Force thing that she has this sort of awareness, because she's so strong in the Force too. But like when I think of Princess Leia in the movies, at least, it's always that she just doesn't take any shit from anybody. It doesn't matter who you are. She just talks right up to Darth Vader, And does she do that with the smugglers, with the people that kidnap her?
oh yeah,
Or does she act kind of scared? Oh, she does?
yeah. She definitely does that too. She's like, my father's gonna send our guards or the army or whatever, and you guys are gonna be screwed.
Okay,
And,
okay.
She's a little firecracker.
Okay, good. I think it's kind of fucking funny that we're sitting here talking about the Obi-Wan show and we're just talking about the female characters, not even talking about fucking Obi-Wan, right?
So we should get into Obi-Wan now at this point, right?
Yes.
And so this is the thing that I love the most about the show is actually Obi-Wan, obviously.
Okay.
I think Ewan McGregor is fantastic in the show, and I think he elevates everything around him, honestly, in the show.
Yes.
I mean, he's really good. I think Jimmy Smits is really good too. But otherwise, like, he's bringing everything up a level to me, and I really like the path they're setting him on here. That he's hiding out. It's been a long time. He's kind of starting to turn into the Alec Guinness version in a way, watching over Luke. But he's kind of experiencing PTSD, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting look that I'm not used to seeing with this character, and I kind of like it.
Yes. Yeah. He clearly is like the bridge, because I said that Leia was a little baby, and now we're seeing who she's going to grow up into. But with this, it's like we know the prequel era Obi-Wan. He's kind of a little funny, and he is very brave. Then we see the original trilogy Obi-Wan, who is like almost like a Zen master, and this guy is like somewhere in between, and he's the bridge. And yeah, you're right. Ewan McGregor does an incredible job. I feel so bad for him when he's sitting there out in the desert cutting up like crate dragon meat. But I was also wondering, like, how come nobody fucking catches him when he like so obviously like packages it up and puts it in his cloak?
I was because they showed it so many times. I was waiting for someone to call him out on it.
Yeah. Like that foreman guy, like, hey, what are you doing? Yeah. But no, I guess not. So, and it's so cool that he like takes that little hover bus back to the city. Then he like takes his little camel elephant thing out into the desert and goes into his cave. He's got his little R2 periscope alarm system.
He's being very careful about everything, and I like that. And I liked his interaction with the Jawa. First of all, I think it was a little funny conversation, and I really liked the his conversation with Owen.
Yes.
I thought that was great, and just the he thinks that Luke should just be a farmer and leave all that previous stuff behind and forget about it, and that's what's safer and better for him. But Obi-Wan still kind of has that adventurous attitude from of his younger days. He thinks that there's a whole galaxy to see and all this.
Yeah, and we see that little toy that Luke is playing with, and we find out that Obi-Wan gave Luke that toy. That like Luke in A New Hope goes like this with this like little ship that Obi-Wan got from the Jawa. Yeah. So whenever they do this kind of nostalgia stuff, little Easter eggs like that are kind of annoying. But I thought in this case it made a lot of sense and it worked with the story.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and Owen is great, and what brings the Inquisitors to Tatooine is this one escaped Jedi, and I really like the scene when they uncover him. Reva, like you said before, was like kind of like over the top, and she like threw a knife at this one guy's face, and then the Jedi stopped the knife, and then she went to go slice him down, but then the Inquisitor stopped him, kind of like what you were saying before too. of like, well, we're here to kill this Jedi, but don't kill him right now, right? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, and that one was a little bit more understanding because they're trying to capture him so they can interrogate him to try and find more Jedi.
Yeah.
I kind of get that, but like all the other times too, it's just like it was a little much.
Right. And more in episode 2, yeah.
Yeah.
But the episode begins kind of. We knew Obi-Wan was going off world. I did not know that it was going to be that Princess Leia got kidnapped. That was kind of the cool twist. The trailers make it seem like the Inquisitors come to Tatooine, and maybe like there's a Jedi that they're hunting, and maybe that makes Obi-Wan go on an adventure because he's trying to save that Jedi or something. But it's like, no, Princess Leia just gets fucking kidnapped.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I was completely not expecting that at all. I mean, I knew that they had cast. I mean, they showed Luke in the trailer. I don't think they showed Leia in the trailer.
No.
But maybe that was on purpose, so you kind of would have guessed that was what it was about. And it's a little odd too because it seems. I mean, it's a little contradictory. Did you write this in your notes, or am I just thinking this?
What?
About how, in A New Hope, when Leia sends the message to Obi-Wan.
I did write that.
You did? Okay. It makes it seem like they had never met before.
Right. She says, you served my father in the Clone Wars. And she's not like, you and I had a little adventure on Dayum or whatever the fuck the planet's called.
Yeah.
So this show, it just seems like is going to have a bunch of things that seem to kind of contradict future events. Yes, and episode 2 is kind of rife with them. Yeah. So you want to jump into episode 2?
Is there anything else we need to go through about 1? I guess not.
I think we covered it, and I think worst case scenario, it'll probably come up in our episode 2.
Sure.
So, okay, so the planet I was talking about. Oh, here's the thing that we didn't say: Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers.
All right, this is the time I'm totally going to take the piss out of Flea here. I'm tired of Star Wars casting celebrity cameos.
Okay,
it's too much. At least give me someone that can act. Like Flea cannot act. I'm sorry.
Hey, he was in like Back to the Future 2.
Was he?
Yeah. He's the guy that like Marty McFly gets into a car accident, and that's what makes him not be able to play the guitar. And it's because he was going to race with him. And in Back to the Future 3, Flea's like, "Come on, let's race."
Oh, in 3.
Yeah. Well, I think he's in 2 and 3, but yeah, he's definitely in 3.
I did not know that. But
yes.
I felt I'm looking at like this when I saw him like this is Flea. This is Star Wars. This is Flea.
Yeah.
And like his delivery was very flat.
Yeah.
And I'm just this happens every show, almost every episode. There's some celebrity that gets like shoved in here because they're Star Wars fans. I mean, that's what I'm assuming anyway. And some of them work, and some of them don't. And this one really did not work for me.
Oof, poor Flea. Okay, well, he ended up having a pretty bad fate in this episode too on the planet of Dayu. But yeah, I agree with you on that. Like, it was a little too much, and he wasn't that great. Sorry, Flea. So, they said in the beginning of this episode that like when you go to Dayu, when you go to Dayu, like transmissions can't be sent from the planet or received.
Yeah, they block transmissions. Because I'm assuming it's just a shady planet in general.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there's a whole drug lab there. So, I mean, obviously, lots of bad stuff goes on here.
Yeah. There's like a freaking like Star Wars meth lab at one point. And
very, very much a Star Wars meth lab. And there's a girl who tries to sell them some spice.
Yeah.
A kid-friendly way of getting around drugs.
Yeah, and that's very reminiscent of in Attack of the Clones. There's a guy that tries to sell him death sticks. It's kind of similar.
Yeah.
But that whole planet had this sort of like Blade Runner type vibe, which I think people might have thought that would have been Coruscant, but it was its own thing. I like the aesthetic of it. I thought it looked really awesome.
This, I did like it too. I mean, I'm always a sucker for like cyberpunk looking stuff. But this in Boba Fett, the Mandalorian episode. This wasn't the same planet. Was he actually on Coruscant?
No. Okay. So Dayu. I actually looked up Dayu because in the very beginning of Rogue One, there's a scene on a planet that looks very much like this planet too, and it's not that planet. And then the planet in the Mandalorian episode of Boba Fett is like a ring, and this is not that.
Oh, you're right. Okay,
Yeah,
that's right. We made the Halo jokes. Yes.
right. So, but on this planet, Obi-Wan goes there because Bail Organa sends him, and he runs into Haja Estri, who's played by Kumail Nanjiani, and he was. Did you think he was a Jedi initially?
No.
Okay, you knew he was a combat.
The second he did I mean, when he starts doing closing the windows, I'm like, why would he do that? It's just like that's a little too telling, you know.
Right.
And then obviously, as he talks more, you can tell he's swindling them for money because a Jedi wouldn't do that.
Yeah, Kumail Nanjiani. I've seen him in a couple of movies now, and it seems like maybe when it comes to these big franchises, he maybe is kind of playing these sort of like characters that kind of seem oafish or goofy, but then they end up being like more noble and serious. Like he was like that in Eternals with Kingo.
Yeah.
But then same thing with this episode, and I actually really liked like what happened with his character in the course of the episode.
I agree. Yeah, he seemed a little goofy at first, and that's fine. And then he actually runs into Obi-Wan again later on, and he's like, "You got to go here. Trust me. I mean, you don't really have a choice, I guess, you know." And I thought he did a really good job there. And then maybe it was a little silly when he went to go stop Reva because he was just kind of being like, "Oh, I'm a Jedi, and you're not going to get past me." I mean, I would have thought that she would have just like cut him in half instantly.
Right.
You know?
Right.
That seems a little weird to me because that's what you wanted to do to everyone else. She's seconds away from what she wants, and again, something like ridiculous stops her.
Yes. Yeah, I know. She's like a loose cannon, man. I thought she was gonna totally kill him. I mean, she just chopped off that poor guy on Tatooine's hand just randomly.
Yeah.
No,
it was some old lady.
It was an old lady?
It was I would say like a late 50s, early 60s lady. Yeah.
Oh fuck, man, she's hardcore, man. So yeah, like the thing is with her not killing him, it's like obviously they want to like have him be in a book or a comic or something down the road. Like, because with every Star Wars character, no matter how insignificant, they'll throw him into some kind of story, right?
Yeah.
And I think that probably if that Star Wars character, and I mentioned this, but like that Jedi that like kind of fought off the clones in the beginning of the first episode,
yeah.
If she's not already an established character, they're 100% going to make like a comic of that or a book of her, you know?
Yep.
But yeah. So he's still alive by the end of that episode. One other thing we didn't mention was that Tamara Morrison is in this episode too.
Yes.
That was so fucking
fantastic scene. And again, highlighting Obi-Wan's kind of PTSD, you know, like seeing the face of, you know, the thing that killed all his friends, really.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And it's still giving him the credits too.
Yes. Such a good scene because it's a direct connection to the other Disney shows too. Because you know, obviously that's Boba Fett, right?
Yeah.
Then it's a callback to when he was a general in charge of the clone troopers, and it's like this idea of like that was a different age, you know, like we were the force for good, we had power, and now look at us, you know.
Yeah.
And then finally, like that scene, he gives the guy the money, like you said, and then there's a stormtrooper there, and it's kind of like. And they made it a point for the stormtrooper to say something, and it's not that Tamara Morrison voice too.
Yeah, and also you could tell that the stormtroopers are different heights, all that. So you know they're saying we've moved on from the clones. You know we've completely, just like in the rule, we've completely forgotten about our veterans. You know.
Yes. Yeah. Oof. Yeah, but yeah. So yeah, we've moved on, and it's so good and so bleak, and I just fucking love it.
Yeah.
And in my notes, the next thing I said was that like you know Ewan McGregor is fantastic. You already talked about that. And then I also talked about the Leia stuff. So here's the stuff with the Leia thing that kind of bothers me. She says all these things that are like really like wise for a little kid, but then she does like really foolish things where she starts like running away from Obi-Wan and like kind of jumping on rooftops.
You know what? I thought her questioning Obi-Wan was actually like something that Leia would kind of do, or someone intuitive would do, because like really, I mean, he was right. It's like, you know, you can stay here if you want, or you can come with me. But then you know, she starts noticing things, and she makes the wrong assumption, obviously, because he really is there to help her. But I don't find that far-fetched. This is someone she's never seen before, and they're trying to get off this planet, and he's not telling her anything. Like she's the lightsaber, and thinks she's lying. I totally get that. The running and jumping on the buildings. All right, I'll totally agree with you there. I don't know why a little kid would do that and anything. I did like that the act that got her to trust him was making her float, which was a simple request that she had earlier in the episode. I did like that, but to get there, that was just like a little bit too much.
Yes. I love that floating part because it's like, he goes to use the Force, and it's like a true strain for him to save her. It's like he's like constipated or something. It's like, oh, I can't do it. And that's great. I love when it's like the Jedi, but they're not connected to the Force. It's like Luke in The Last Jedi. And that kind of sets off alarms too. And that brings us to some of the contradictions. So we talked about contradictions, right? So the one thing we keep talking about is how the Inquisitors keep standing in the way of Reva. Well, the Grand Inquisitor stands in front of Reva at the very end of episode 2, and she fucking stabs him, right?
Yeah, and clearly this character is supposed to come back. So like you posited, is he still alive, or is there somebody else that's going to come back and replace him? That might have a slightly skinnier, taller head.
Right. It's so bizarre because I think it's that character who's voiced by Jason Isaacs, who's a fantastic fucking actor.
Yeah.
In the Rebels show, and it's like, well, then what the fuck? They just kill this guy, and it's like, oh, well, my brother is gonna be. I think it's gonna be the same character because he was hit in the stomach, right? And Fennec Shan was shot in the stomach in like The Mandalorian.
Good point. Excellent.
And they were able to like repair
Star Wars.
Her,
you can only survive a death shot, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much, right? So like, there's that one contradiction. Then there's the one that we mentioned before, which is like Leia not knowing Obi-Wan prior to A New Hope, and then all of a sudden she does now. And then we get to the third contradiction, the last one, which is when Reva is about to catch Obi-Wan, and she doesn't like use the Force at all, by the way, once he's on the ship. Like she could try to like use the Force to like stop the ship, right? She could like throw her lightsaber or something, right?
Yes. Well, first of all, I think that was a very big ship.
Okay.
Second of all, we don't know how advanced she is in the Force necessarily. She, as I mentioned earlier, the Inquisitors were generally Force sensitive, so they could do some stuff, but not like all the crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But one thing I really wanted to bring up that I really had an issue with was her like whole Batman running on the rooftops moment that went nowhere. She's like running on the rooftops for like 20 minutes. She hears laser blasts from the roof of some building on this planet, and she's running across rooftops for like 10 minutes.
Yep.
And she still doesn't even get there in time.
Right.
And she's doing all this like parkour and like Batman shit. And I'm like, this is a total waste of time.
Yes, exactly. It's just to look cool. It's just to be in the trailer. She's running and she's jumping. And then she finally gets to Obi-Wan, and he goes to leave on the transport, and she says, he's still alive. Anakin Skywalker is still alive. Darth Vader, wants you or something like that. And so, to me, in canon, I thought it was established that, like, no one really made the connection between Darth Vader being Anakin Skywalker,
It's possible. I'm not sure. I mean, absolutely in A New Hope, I don't think they had that in mind at the time.
No.
100%. So I think even that from A New Hope to Empire Strikes Back as a retcon. So I guess they can continue to retcon it a little bit. I don't mind it because again, I think it really adds to that PTSD that Obi-Wan is experiencing. He's like, that's like his greatest failure, and I really like that and the look on his face afterward when he hears that, and it kind of zooms in on his face and all that. And one of the other things I know we have to kind of start wrapping up because we have to get the Thor too, but I really want to know why Reva is so gung-ho against Obi-Wan. They haven't really got too much into that, but obviously they will. but I don't really have any thoughts other than maybe he was the fact that maybe he brought her to the Jedi Temple to be trained in the first place, and she was one of those Padawans, and she blames him for everything that happened because, you know.
If I had a theory, because the way the other Inquisitors talk to her, they make it sound like her main motivation is that she wants to get Darth Vader's favor.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
And so, and they say something like, "We found her in the gutter." Now, if she's one of those Jedi, I think that if they do another cutscene back to Order 66, it might be that they show a de-aged Hayden Christensen as Anakin, and that like he spares her or something like that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I wonder what his criteria is for sparing children.
I don't think he has any. You know, but like, it's interesting because like, if you watch Revenge of the Sith, you know, the Emperor is just basically like you have to wipe them all out, just get rid of all the Jedi. And then they, of course, come up with this idea that there's some that have survived and they become these Inquisitors. So yeah, I don't know if he would spare someone. So I guess we'll see. But I think it's not necessarily as much of a I hate Obi-Wan because of this. I think it's more of I want to make
an end.
Right. So.
And my other hope for this show is that there'll be some solid tie into the Jedi Fallen Order game, because this all takes place kind of around the same time. It also features another sister in the Inquisitors. So I'm hoping, and I remember there's an interview with Obi-Wan where he's talking about Deborah Chow and how she understands the link between like the different continuities and games and stuff. So like I'm really hoping that we'll maybe see Cal Kestis, Cameron Moynihan. I know my wife would flip the fuck out if that happened.
Yeah,
and, I mean, like they got to put him in. They got to put him in some live action thing, and like, what better thing to put him in?
Right.
The character looks like him, and it's just like it's like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah. Well, I think that one cameo that we're going to see that we were told we're not going to see. I think we're going to see Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah, he's been mentioned a few too many times to not be shown here. Yeah. In did you watch the recap at the beginning?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, because the last thing you hear is Yoda saying, "Oh, I have new things to teach you and ways to communicate with your former master." So
yeah.
from Revenge of the Sith. So
and like Obi-Wan even at one point, right? Where Obi-Wan at one point, like when he's on his little mission, says like, "Oh, Master, what would I do? Or I could use your guidance or something like that too."
Yeah.
And he's not talking about Yoda; he's talking about Qui-Gon. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have more to say about Obi-Wan?
No. I mean, I enjoyed it. Obi-Wan is and especially the Ewan McGregor version was always one of my favorite Star Wars characters. So I'm very excited for the show. I do have some, you know, it's a little mixed so far, but I'm still excited to see where it goes, and I'm happy we're going to cover it the next 4 weeks.
Fuck yes, yeah. I feel the exact same way as you. I'm surprised, right? And it's just because, like, right now everything is so like there's so much shit that just came out today, right? Like there's the Obi-Wan thing, there's Stranger Things, there's the fucking Top Gun movie. Like
which I heard is very good.
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually gonna go see it tomorrow night too.
Nice.
No, but yeah, I mean, universally, pretty much everyone thinks that Ewan McGregor is like the best thing of the prequels. He's just good in everything that he's in general. And I think that a lot of people have been looking forward to this. And yeah, I absolutely am looking forward to talking about this with you for next month. You know, so with that being said, let's just spend the last couple of minutes talking about Thor: Love and Thunder, the trailer right here. So did you like this trailer better than the teaser?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I was more satisfied. I mean, I didn't have any negatives on the teaser. I have some negatives on this trailer. I'm super pumped. They showed Christian Bale as Gore. I'm very excited for all that.
Yes.
What I don't like about this trailer is all the half jokey, romantic-y stuff. It was too much in the trailer, I think. I'm all for the comedy of this series and Taika's voice, but I'm kind of worried that there's going to be a little bit too much silly in this movie for its own good. I think. Yeah. I mean, it was welcome. It was totally fucking welcome in Thor Ragnarok. But I seeing this trailer, I'm a little worried that they're going to push that envelope a little bit too much.
Okay. Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because that brings up something I wasn't going to talk about at all, but now I feel like I need to address. I think that maybe the best thing about Ragnarok is that Natalie Portman is not in it. Now,
interesting. Okay.
If you look at the first two Thor movies, there's a big focus on Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman is actually an incredible actress. I do not think Natalie Portman's a bad actress. I think she's very, very good in many movies.
Oh, she was like my first crush.
Yeah. The professional,
like everyone that's our age.
Right. And Black Swan and like so many different things. Where I think that she is at her weakest is in like the Star Wars prequels, and then I think she's kind of bad in the first two Thor movies. It just is that kind of like, it's just the way they portray her character. And so I'm kind of worried that we're kind of going backwards and kind of talking about their love and stuff. What's so good about Ragnarok is it's kind of fresh, and they almost like destroy the whole Thor MCU world and then become this new thing in Ragnarok. And I think that maybe we're kind of starting to go back, and I don't like that, you know?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I mean, I didn't have that fear next time. I'm excited for the Jane version of Thor. Very much. I can totally see where you're coming from. I mean, the Thor, the first two Thor movies are not some of the stronger MCU movies. Absolutely, especially two. Is what bottom of the barrel for just about everybody.
Exactly.
So I can totally see that, and but I'm curious if this is a passing of the torch movie. This is a flash in the pan, one and done sort of thing, and then we just really won't be a Thor around in the MCU. Because I mean, it's not like she's a new character or anything like that. She's been in the movies for since they started, really. So it's going 10, 15 years, whatever the heck it is. So like I'm saying is, I'm sure she's not looking to get into a 3-picture deal that's going to go over 10 years at this point in her life and career. So I'm very curious what happens with these characters after this movie. It's very clear that we're heading towards a Secret Wars kind of thing overall with is this phase 4 or 5?
We're in 4.
Phase 4 is definitely going to be a Secret Wars kind of deal.
Yeah.
With incursions and multiple dimensions and all that. And beyond that, who the hell knows? Because at this point, there's no way that you're still going to have Mark Ruffalo or Chris Hemsworth or any of these earlier characters still around. And you're going to be, putting the focus. I mean, even Benedict Cumberbatch said, like, I'm kind of tired of this. Elizabeth Olsen said, I'm kind of tired of doing this too.
Wow.
They're all taking breaks and stuff like that. The Guardians is going away too. They maybe weren't as involved in the day-to-day world building stuff, but they were part of the larger picture. So yeah, I'm overall curious as to what happens afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, in the comics, eventually she kind of takes over at one point, and there is kind of that team that has Falcon as Captain America, and she's on it, and then you have some of these other characters. They're on that one Avengers team that has like Ms. Marvel and like the Nova, that's like Nova's kid. It seems that they're sort of going towards that, and they do this thing where they kind of like take stuff from like the 70s or 80s, and they take stuff from like the modern day stuff, and they just kind of mash it together. And I think that's kind of where we're going forward.
Well,
go ahead.
I think, and I saw some like mock-up of someone did. So, the original 6 Avengers characters were, Iron Man, Cap, Thor, Hulk, Black Widow, and Hawkeye. And then they showed kind of them in the background, and then in the forefront, you saw Sam Wilson standing there, War Machine, Jane Foster, Thor. You saw Kate Bishop, and then whom I forget, and She-Hulk, representing each of those characters. And Yelena, sorry, each of those characters. So I think maybe that's something we'll see, and then maybe Phase 5 is something where we'll see the Young Avengers, because they
Oh,
need to have representations of those characters in some capacity.
yeah.
And so far, with the exception of I mean, Kate is obviously a young Avenger, but with the exception of her and maybe Elijah Bradley, Eli Bradley, whatever.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
Patriot.
yeah. All of them, all of the ones they've introduced are on the younger side.
Yeah. Yeah.
They need to
Like
grow
Wanda's
more.
kids.
Yeah. So we'll have they're already aging up. Cassie
Ant-Man's
Lang.
daughter.
So
Cassie.
that's stature from that. So there's 3 kind of semi-older characters, and there's a
Right.
bunch that still need to grow a little bit so they can work in this environment.
Yeah. Yeah, if you could send me that mock-up, I actually would really like to see that image, because that's kind of cool. Kind of shows us
some like random Twitter post. I'll try, but I'm not optimistic.
Okay, fair enough. It's interesting because like I'm not exactly sure how Jane's going to be introduced or like what the context of it is, because when you watch trailers, you've seen so many of them for so long and you kind of piece the movie together. There's things I still have kind of confusion about from the teaser and from this. First off, there's like a army fighting another army, and it looks like it's on Earth. I'm guessing that one of the armies is like the Asgardians that are on Earth, and they're fighting against another force. And Jane shows up, and she's got the helmet on. And in this trailer, in the second trailer, Mjolnir kind of flies near Thor, and he goes, Mjolnir, but then it goes to Jane. But then they show another scene. In that scene I'm talking about, he has kind of like a fur collar on.
He's got a whole full helmet and mask on and everything too.
So that's in the next scene that they show.
Oh, okay.
Because it's not the same scene.
You're right. Yes, I'm sorry. You're right. Yes.
So the next scene is he's got that mask on that you're talking about, and that mask totally looks CGI to me. Okay. Both times I've seen it, and he's like Jane, and he's like real goofy. And I don't like the way that mask looks at all. But it's to me, it's like, okay, so that's 2 different scenes, because in that second scene when he has the mask on, she does not. So it's like, so she shows up, and there's some kind of battle going on Earth, probably with Asgardians versus a force. And then there's another scene when like there's at least one house burning. And I guess my question is, what is the force that the Asgardians are fighting? Are they fighting against forces that work for Gore,
Yeah, but Gore's a loner. That's the only problem with that.
So the reason why I kind of stammered while I was saying that to you is because I was thinking in my head, I'm like, what if it's this? What if Asgard on Earth gets attacked by Olympians? Because Olympians are like, you're trying to kill us. Because what if there's like Gore's going around killing people, and maybe for some reason the Olympians think that it's the Asgardians. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then that's what that battle is. And then Jane shows up to that. Then they go to Olympus to go talk to Zeus, and that's where all that funny stuff with Russell Crowe happens. And then maybe Gore attacks them there. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe.
Because I think that Gore's a like a loner, like you said, and I don't think he's going to have forces that he commands.
So this is an interesting thing, and I'm kind of debating whether or not. I mean, no, I'm not debating. I know which way I want it to go. The Gore and his weapon, the Necro Sword, are very tied to
Venom.
Null and Venom.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious if they're going to take any of that from this, and I kind of hope they don't. I'd rather it be separate. I have not read any of the stuff with Null or anything like that, but from an outsider's kind of point of view, it looks cheesy to me. Null kind of looks like a Legacy of Kain knockoff to me, and it's just weird that this dude that looks like a gothic vampire almost is like the creator of or the progenitor of the symbiotes.
Yeah,
like it makes sense to me at all.
Yeah, take that, Donny Cates. But like, sorry,
no one is safe on Comic Books Transformed.
That's right. All of our 10 followers really get they know who we like and who we don't. But no. Look, you're right. The thing is, like, Venom is connected to all the Sony stuff, and it's kind of clear that like Sony's like sort of like the weird 5th cousin of the MCU, where it's like, they're like, we're in the same family, but we don't want to acknowledge it. They certainly do acknowledge the Necro Sword in this trailer. Like, there's one part where like Gore's reaching for it. I don't think there's going to be symbiote kind of stuff in this, so I think you can rest assured that maybe
maybe they'll take some approximation of the origin of the sword and just make it something different. So it's not symbiotes, but there's some kind of creatures or army involved with however the sword they're going to intend the sword is created.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll see what that army is that's fighting when Jane shows up. I actually really do like that she's able to like go like this with Mjolnir, and then like shards of it hit multiple people, and then it comes back.
And I didn't even pick up on that. I thought that was like some kind of weird lightning storm that went out, but that's a really cool little detail that I like.
Yeah. Then we were talking about Christian Bale though. Once I saw him as Gore, it's so funny because like comic book fans are like, oh, he doesn't have the tentacles, but it's like, who gives a fuck? It's Christian Bale playing this guy.
I was initially worried based on the Marvel Legends figure because it looks real plain and real basic, but those feelings are totally quenched. I'm on board. I think it looks great. I was not expecting tentacles. I'm cool. I'm fine with that. Yeah. But it looks way better than that figure. That figure looks like crap compared to how this looked. And you're not safe either, Marvel Legends.
Yeah, take that, you toy making assholes. But like Christian Bale, he's one of my favorite actors like of all time. And just like seeing him in this role, I was like, oh my God, this is so much better than I thought it was going to be. It's like Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger, just like elevates the whole thing.
Absolutely. And I'm very excited for this, for him in this role, because there's always that conversation about have the villains aren't as good in the MCU, and I'm hoping that someone puts him real high on a list.
Yeah. Then we have a few good ones. We have Thanos and Killmonger and him. Is there any other people you think deserve to be on that list?
Loki.
Who?
Loki.
Oh yeah, duh. Yeah, good point. So one last thing. You talked about the humor, and you're wondering that it might be like too silly. Did you laugh at that joke where Russell Crowe goes flick?
Yeah. That was good. I like the Korg intro, but the whole awkward romantic stuff that was where I felt odd, and that's the part that worried me, and I had trouble articulating that until I just rewatched it, 10 minutes before we started recording.
Okay, well put, man. You have had some pretty fucking spot on points tonight.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yes,
I mean honestly, if not for your notes, though, I wouldn't have these points. What can I come up with that he hasn't already thought of?
Yes. You guys at home have to reward Brian for his diligence, because I think I sent him like 15 pages worth of notes today for all this shit.
Yes, I cannot keep it all on one screen. I will say that. I was scrolling up and down this entire conversation, going back and forth.
Yeah, it's a lot, man. So if you guys have not liked and subscribed to Comic Books Transform, please do. We'd love to have you on there. My other channel, The Lastercast, just got up to 401 subscribers. That might not sound like a lot to all you hip, whatever the fuck Gen Z people you are, but like for us millennial guys, like that's a big deal. We need some more followers on here. Did you have any more comments on this trailer?
I don't think so. I think I'm good.
Okay. So then next week we have Young Justice and we have Obi-Wan. I think it's just that, right? Or is next week the Hell Week that has like 5 shows?
Yeah, Miss Marvel's coming real soon, and The Boys is coming real soon.
Oh my God. I actually have this all mapped out. I know there's like a Hell Week coming real soon where it's like 4 shows at least in one shot.
Well, we only have 2 more of Young Justice, so that's only 2 more weeks. Obi-Wan's got 4 weeks. So next Wednesday is the first. So we have 2 weeks until Miss Marvel.
Okay.
And then The Boys. Oh, didn't give me what I wanted to know. That's going to be next Friday.
Oh my God. Well, whatever the case is, Brian and I are going to keep making these videos for you guys on Thursday night. So if you guys want to check in with us, we're going to be covering Obi-Wan. We're going to be covering Young Justice. We're going to be covering The Boys, and we're going to be covering Ms. Marvel. So anything that you want middle-aged men to talk about, as long as it has to do with comics, come to this channel. And I guess we'll see you guys next Thursday then. Nice.